Just checking if it's not echoing anywhere here. Not echoing. Just testing. Very good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you. Very good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us. Just audible. Thank you. A very good afternoon to all our viewers. We are just awaiting Honorable Sports Minister's arrival. As soon as he joins us on this virtual space, we shall begin the proceedings. Thank you so much.
नमस्कार सर।
जी नमस्कार।
नमस्ते सर, कैसे हैं?
बहुत बढ़िया।
गुड टू सी यू अगेन।
इसमें रिफ्लेक्शन आप इधर बैठे।
Welcome, sir. It's a pleasure to have you, and welcome to all our dignitaries on the panel here. Thank you so much for joining us. A very good afternoon to all our viewers, and thank you so much for joining us, and welcome to the Confederation of Indian Industry Scorecard 2021. My name is Sachin Kumbhar, and I will be your host for this next two-day virtual event. Today, we have with us Honorable Minister of State, Independent Charge of Youth Affairs and Sports, Minority Affairs, Government of India, Kiran Rijijuji. A warm welcome to you, sir, and thank you so much for joining us. This unique sports conference is being spearheaded by Chairman of the CII National Committee on Sports, Mr. Anupam Goswami. We also have with us President of Sports Industry Confederation and co-promoter Asian Paints, Mr. Jalaj Dani. And on behalf of our event knowledge partner, Mr. Kunal Sood, partner, Grand Thornton, Bharat. Once again, extending a warm welcome to all of you. Thank you so much for joining us. The sixth edition of CII Scorecard comes at a unique time prospect against the backdrop of the COVID-19 pandemic, which has so severely challenged all walks of our national life. As our nation gears up to recover from the impact of the pandemic, the resumption of sport is obviously so relevant for its demonstrative impact and positive values. With that, we'd like to thank our sponsors for supporting this two-day virtual event, Mashal Sports, organizers of the Pro Kabaddi League, Tata Steel, Toyota Kirloskar, State Government of Victoria, Australia, and Oil India Limited. Thank you so much for your support. This event will bring together leaders of sports management, policy making, and entrepreneurship from around the world of sport, including those who are leading the way with safe and secure sport in the face of COVID-19. A report prepared jointly by CII's knowledge partners Grant Thornton focused on the top sports cities in India, which will also be presented today. Over the course of these 2 days, we will have 8 unique sessions featuring stalwarts from across the sporting landscape to discuss topics ranging from the resumption of sport in a brave new world, India's potential to host the biggest global sporting events, Fit India and Atmanirbhar Bharat, key investment areas in Indian sports, growing sports leagues in the country, and several other important aspects from the world of sports. But before we begin, a few important announcements. Since we are on a virtual space, I request all our viewers to please keep a charger or a power bank handy, and also place yourself wherever there's good internet connection so you do not drop during the course of the session. For a seamless experience, it would be best if you would view this event on a laptop. And I'm sure many of you would have questions for our esteemed panelists. At the end of every session, we shall open the floor for Q&A. For the same, request you please type your questions in the chat box below, mentioning your name first, and whom you want to address it to, and then your organization's name, and then the question. It's very important that you please mention whom you want to address this question. Accordingly, we can address it to the respective individual. With that, now, for the welcome and theme address, I would hand over this virtual space to the chairman of CII National Committee on Sports, Mr. Anupam Goswami. It's over to you, sir.
Sachin, thank you so much. Just to do another routine check, the audio link is working from my end?
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much. You and others in the scorecard team have actually put together a very innovative basket of content and relevant ideas for sport in current times. And I thank you for that also. Of course, Sri Kiran Rijiju, Minister for Youth Affairs and Sports, Mr. Jalaj Dani, President Sportscom, and my friend Kunal Sood from Grand Thornton, Bharat. All of you have been so encouraging what we are trying to encapsulate in our program over the next 2 days. Distinguished guests and ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to welcome you to the 6th edition of Scorecard this morning. It is a flagship event for the sports sector under the aegis of the Confederation of Indian Industry. The 6th edition of CII Scorecard comes at a very unique time and prospect for all of us. It is, of course, against the backdrop of the COVID-19 pandemic, which has so severely affected all walks of public life in our nation and all other parts of the world too. Again, as India and other countries gear up to fight the pandemic. A basic commonality of all initiatives and solutions is that they have to be mass and public oriented. This is very true of the anti-COVID vaccination programs. And India's start in that in this area is being noted across the world. Of course, sport is very special and potent for mass engagement. We are clear that the resumption of sport is of utmost priority and relevance for sheer demonstrative impact and spread of positivity among people and populations across the world. The conduct of great sports leagues, such as the NBA, the Premier League, India's IPL, have all made very significant signals on drivers of public will and goodwill in face of COVID. The same realization gives every reason to believe that the current times must be seized upon to drive even stronger and more ambitious agendas for sport within our country as well as between nations. It is in this overall context and with much pleasure that I welcome Sri Kiran Rijidu, Minister for State for Youth Affairs and Sports in particular. And we look to engage with him through this entire edition of Scorecard, in fact. Kiranji, all stakeholders in the Indian sports ecosystem look to you as the guiding light for Indian sport, from the grassroots to the elite level of elite competition, from government-funded, government-driven programs, as well as initiatives and endeavors of the private sector. Your leadership and direct encouragement has been vital and energizing to all significant initiatives for the unfolding of sport over the past few months. This is relevant for athlete preparation for the upcoming Tokyo Olympics, for continuity and resumption of Indian sports leagues, for the conduct of the forthcoming Khelo India Games later this year, the very far-sighted initiative for sports as regular curriculum in schools, and of course, taking together and holding together all the sports initiatives in every part of the country. Sir, you have taken remarkable steps to strengthen the sports ecosystem of the country, and your participation today greatly encourages the sports fraternity. On behalf of CII and all participants and attendees today, I thank you once again for joining us. The sixth edition of the CII Scorecard will showcase ambition as well as determination to overcome adversity. It will also offer vision and focus in relevant areas of sport, particularly from the private sector. We will focus on the best examples from the world of sports, big leagues, small leagues, special programs for champion athletes, as well as for popular participation. As well as the kind of thinking required to grow sports in India with a view to become a sporting nation as well as a sports power. We have that ambition in this room today, sir. Aptly, the theme for the sixth edition of CII Scorecard is called A Brave New World of Sport. Kiranji, the notable highlight today and tomorrow at CII Scorecard is that it's being organized as a totally virtual event. There are challenges as well as opportunities in such situations. I like to focus on the opportunities and seize the opportunity. One advantage of being a virtual event is that we have been able to bring together a diversity of finest leaders and entrepreneurs from the world of sport for this event. Over the next 2 days, we will have visionaries from India, such as Dr. Narendra Batra, President of the Indian Olympic Association, Adil Sumariwala from the Athletics Federation of India, Pulela Gopichand, and Viren Raskina. At the same time, I'm very proud of some special participants. We have 4 distinguished ladies who will present their passion and ambition for Indian sport through their diverse perspectives. Miss Vita Dani is the founder of the Ultimate Table Tennis League, as well as the founder of the ISL team Chennai FC. Miss Reena Sangvi, the CEO and co-founder of Pinkathon. It is the biggest women's running movement in India with over 100,000 participants. It's a genuine example of the adoption and practice of the Fit India Credo. We'll have Dr. Michelle Wade, member of the CII National Committee on Sport. Her mainline job is being Commissioner for the Government of Queensland for South Asia. She will use her expertise, conduct a very special session on the scope of foreign institutional investment in Indian sport. Of course, the virtual event also enables the participation from across the world. I would begin by highlighting the absolutely unique initiative by the Honorable Nigel Huddleston, MP, Assistant Chief Whip and Minister for Sports, Tourism and Heritage of the United Kingdom, to grace this edition of CII-Scorecard for a unique, never before, peer conversation with you, Kiranji. And jointly with this will envision the possibilities of sharing, learning, cooperation for sport across boundaries, distances, and contexts. Is the true value of sport. We'll also have the participation with distinguished leadership from the best sports organizations in the world. We'll have Mr. Manu Sawhney, CEO of the International Cricket Council, Mr. Richard Garlick, Director of Sport for the Premier League, Mr. Scott Levy, who leads the NBA in Asia Pacific. Each one of them brings such rich experience and insight into contemporary sport, as well as what is set to be in the world of sports in coming future. I thank them all. Our knowledge partner for the 6th edition of CII-Scorecard is Grant Thornton Bharat. They have played a very vital role in stitching together the overall program for the 6th edition of Scorecard. They have also prepared for this scorecard a knowledge report titled Sports Cities in India 21, Future Destinations for Global Sporting Events. This report serves as the starting point for an annual study for sports cities and large sports events in India. Such an effort will be we think it's going to be very vital to regular assessment, calibration, and strengthening of our sport efforts to grow sports in a big way in India and across it. It is my privilege to formally begin the 6th edition of CII-Scorecard by the release of this report, Sports Cities of India 2021, with the Honorable Minister of Sports, Shri Kiren Rijiju, and Mr. Kunal Sood, partner, Grant Thornton Bharat. Sir, we untie the ribbon.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Sachin?
Yes, sir. Thank you so much,
Kunal,
sir. Thank you.
It's your turn in the sequence.
Thank you very much, Anubhav. Good afternoon, everyone. Honorable Minister, thank you very much today. And my compliments to CII, to the NCS for putting this first ever virtual scorecard together. And it has been an absolute pleasure and a privilege to be part of this team. We stitched together the program, the content, as well as the knowledge paper. I'll just take 2 minutes to introduce the inspiration behind the knowledge paper. When we were thinking that, what kind of theme we pick up for this knowledge paper, we were thinking it has to be unique, should be something that kind of binds every stakeholder of the sports ecosystem. It should also be inspiring. It should also be a directional thought leadership, which is dynamic, which should not just stop at one publication, but it should keep evolving into an eventual property. So that is how we arrived at the fourth city. I think this is the first attempt on this kind of a report where we are trying to measure how the cities are gearing up to host global events. That has not been attempted before. What we also believe that India is now due to host Olympics. So we are the only large economy, fifth largest economy, the only large economy which is yet to host an Olympics, and it has its own benefits. What I've read about is 2024 Olympics is going to contribute to 75,000 jobs. It is going to contribute uh, 25 billion to the economy. So those are advantages. But what we also wanted to do through this report is capture the journey towards it. While the end goal can be hosting Olympics, other global events, but I think there is a huge journey that we want to capture, which is how the sports venues, the sports environment, the culture of a city is being shaped. And when we were doing the research for the report, we found out there are 20 cities in India that have already hosted global events, and there are various cities which are investing in infrastructure, in culture, in engaging with the communities, with the citizens. And I think those are the type of measures which we have tried to capture as part of our report. And I believe if this becomes an annual publication with the blessings of Honorable Minister, I think we will nudge every other city to continue to invest towards these programs to make sporting culture, sporting environment in a city very unique and eventually meet that goal of hosting Olympics in India. So I'll stop at that. And once again, I want to thank CI as well as the NCS and Anupam, to you especially for the leadership, for guiding us on every step, telling us that we shouldn't just do a run of the mill. I remember your work. You said we don't want to do run of the mill program. We want to actually contribute to the knowledge which is existing. So I'm glad that we have made a first step towards it. Thank you very much for the opportunity. My pleasure to be a part of it.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, Mr. Kunal Sood. Thank you so much, and thank you for giving us an overview. I would like to thank Honorable Sports Minister Shri Kiran Rijiju, Mr. Huddleston, Mr. Dani, Mr. Gupta, Mr. Goswami, and Mr. Sood for doing the honors. And once again, thank you, CII and Grant Thornton, for the knowledge paper, which gives us an overview and the roadmap for sports in India in the year 2021. And for all the delegates, all the viewers watching us live, you can access this document by clicking on the library icon at the top of your screen. And now for the inaugural address, would now like to extend a formal welcome to Shri Kiran Rijiju, Honorable Minister of State, Independent Charge of the Ministry of Youth Affairs and Sports, and Minister of State in the Minority Affairs. Under his dynamic leadership, the Indian sports sector is undergoing transformational journey. Hailing from the mountainous landscape of Nafra in Arunachal Pradesh, being active comes naturally to him. An active social worker since his school days, he led various social movements as a social worker and student leader. He was named the best athlete in his school and college days, and he has participated in the national games as well. He was also a member of the youth and cultural team, which participated in the Festival of India in USSR in 1987. He's visited many countries across the world as a youth leader, as well as member of various parliamentary delegations. An avid reader and writer, he has written many articles in newspapers and magazines relating to social, cultural, and political issues. Gives me immense pleasure to hand over the virtual space to Honorable Minister of Sports, Shri Kiran Rijiju. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for this very generous introduction. I was best athlete in my school, but never fulfilled my dream to represent India in the Olympics. So I look forward to fulfill my dream through our younger generations. I'm extremely delighted to have Mr. Nigel Huddleston. He is the Minister for Sport from UK, and I had a wonderful conversation with him the other day, and glad to have him in this session. And Mr. Anupam Goswami, he is the chairman of the National Committee of CII on sports, and he is also CEO of the Marshall Sports and League Commissioner for Pro Kabaddi League in India. Mr. Jalas Dani, always great to see him. He is the president of the Sportscom Indian Industry Confederation, and Mr. Kunal Sood, the partner, Grand Toton Bharat, and all the friends from the industry and media, ladies and gentlemen. It is indeed a privilege for me to join in this very, very important event, the CII Scorecard, which is, I think, a flagship event in our country now, and it is of the national importance. And I really give lots of importance to this event, and I know it has a sense of direction, and it will really drive Indian sports to a new height where we all want to see our Indian sports at. You all know very well I have a special passion for the sports, and ever since I have been given the charge of the Ministry of Youth Affairs and Sports, I have tried to connect with all the stakeholders. I've tried to understand the sports through various perspectives. I tried to meet the stakeholders from the industry, from the sports federations. I even tried to go to the individual level of the athletes, how they feel, how they expect things from the government, so that we can have a perfect government policy and support system for the growth of Indian sport. And we all know sport doesn't know the boundaries. It's actually a global effort. That's why I'm glad to see my counterpart from United Kingdom, that we can really work together. And as also being mentioned, I always feel that India has not claimed its rightful place in the world of sports yet. Olympics is the biggest event in the world. By far, no other event can come close to Olympic. An Olympic is something which we are always dreaming about. For example, my colleague is very fortunate. London has already hosted 3 Olympics. We have not even hosted once. In Asia, Japan is going to host 2nd Olympic. I hope things are going in the right direction. They hosted Olympics in 1964, Tokyo Olympics. They're going to have one more. South Korea had 1988 Seoul Olympics. Then, of course, 2008 Beijing Olympics. In Australia, part of Asia Pacific, hosted twice, 1954 Melbourne and 2000 Sydney Olympics. India, a country of 1/6 of the humanity, India is still yet to be there. So I think the Olympic movement is not complete yet till India hosts an Olympics. I have made this point very clear when I had a deliberation with the Olympic Commission. I had the opportunity to talk to all the members of the Olympic Commission virtually last month. And I told them that India abides by Olympic Charter. India follows and adopt the spirit of Olympics. But the Olympic movement will not be complete till India hosts the Olympic. It's a long due. And I know next 3 Olympics are already out of our bound. Tokyo Olympics, 24 Paris Olympics, and 2028 Los Angeles Olympics. So 2028, till that time, we have no options. But beyond 2028, the global community has to give about what India is and what India stands for. So we take this very seriously into our stride. So that is a broad target which we need to understand. Now, to realize that dream, we also have certain responsibilities to do. We can't just claim to host Olympics if we are not prepared. If we are not there as a nation, then it will be not a rightful claim. So I have thought clearly that before we lay our claim, which everybody knows our intention, there are certain things which India as a nation will have to do it. Industry will play a very important role. Definitely CII will play a very, very big role in fulfilling the dream and the aspiration of the people of India. So in this context, I would like to say that let us move together. Let us come, join hands, move together, work together as a team. And we are looking forward to partner not only within the stakeholders of India, but across the globe. All the friendly nations in the world, we will really work together, including the International Olympic Council and all other sporting bodies. Now, this sixth edition of Scorecard with a theme, A Brave New World for Sport. I think that is very opportune at this point of time because we are emerging from COVID-19. And honestly speaking, when this lockdown started in our country, our Honorable Prime Minister Sri Narendra Modi had given a clarion call that we should fight and combat this COVID-19 and defeat it. And today I'm happy as an Indian and as a minister in the government that by far India has been one of those leading nations who has dealt with this COVID-19 effectively, despite having limited health infrastructure, despite having large population of close to 135 crore, that is 1.35 billion population, we have managed quite successfully in handling COVID-19 so far. And we are determined to take this battle forward. So the nation as a whole, we have come a long way. And in this context, this brave new world for sport is something, a rightful topic which has been put for this year's important scorecard of the CII. Now, when we talk about the agenda for the future, we have to understand the challenges and we have to also identify our potentials. I always see that a country's prosperity is directly linked with sports. And you all know that parallelly we are carrying forward two important government programs in India. Khelo India, which literally means Play India. So through Khelo India, we want to create sports culture throughout the country. As a large nation, we can't just confine to few pockets. Of course, in India, we have some states who are doing better than other states. But as a union government, we will have to ensure that the growth of sports spread to the length and corner of the country. The length and breadth of India is wide, and we need to go all along every part of the country. And on the other hand, we have launched Fit India movement. Honorable Prime Minister launched Fit India movement in 2019 on National Sports Day. That is 29th August 2019. And now we are approaching 2 years. And I think in 1.5 years, we have come a long way in Fit India movement. And I know the industries also have played a very critical role in taking forward this Fit India movement. Initially, I realized that the fitness level of India or the fitness awareness was limited to a very limited segment of the society. But this has to be a way of life. Fitness has to be a culture. So sports culture and fitness culture, these both are so important to make India a vibrant nation. When Honorable Prime Minister had given a clarion call for Atmanirbhar Bharat, which means self-reliant India, it is utmost important for every citizen of India to remain fit both physically and mentally. Without making the citizens fit, it will be impossible to make a nation fit. So how to galvanize the entire country to make India a fit nation? This, I thought, the Fit India movement has given a very, very good direction. It has actually, able to influence every segment of the society. And at this point of time, more than 220,000 That is 220,000 schools in India have already registered under Fit India registration program. That means they have fulfilled the stipulation which we have made, and they have registered under various categories. For example, the best school which has all the facilities for sports and fitness can be ranked as Fit India Schools Star 5 category. Then next to that is Star 3 category, and there is then Fit India School, the normal, where they do yoga, fitness program, sports and all, but without that very defined structure or infrastructure. But still they are taking adequate steps to be able to register under Fit India School certification. And if I go to colleges, universities, they are taking up in a large scale. I am constantly in touch with the Education Ministry. My colleague, the Education Minister, Mr. Dr. Ramesh Pokhriyal, has been very proactive. His officials, all the boards of these schools are very, very effective. University Grants Commission playing very critical role. So the Education Ministry is taking it very seriously. And other ministries like Railways, the Central Armed Forces, the Defense Ministry, all the important ministries are taking into their stride to take forward the Fit India movement. And all the corporate, through CII also, I again appeal all the corporates to effectively launch Fit India movement in respective companies and their bodies, so that you can really have fun while working. You can do so many things to remain fit. I always say fitness is easy, it's a joy, it's a part of life. Make it, very interesting. So you don't need to do a typical exercise to remain fit. You can do activities which is very easy, and at the same time it enhances your capacity and your ability. So it improves the personality also. I'm very happy to see most of the corporate leaders are extremely fit. In today's time, I have met many industrialists. I see most of them are more fit than the politicians. So I think the Indian politicians will have to come up to that challenge, that the business group are fit. Now Indian politicians also will have to be fit. So our Speaker of the Lok Sabha also conducted Fit India Run for the members of parliament. So if you see the fitness level of the members of parliament a decade back and today, there's a world of differences. Today, most of the politicians are also fit. You see most of the chief ministers. Look at the fitness levels of our honorable prime minister. Our prime minister never gets tired because he is extremely fit physically and mentally. So these are, I think, a new age scenario. Fit India for New India. This is one of the hashtag we had launched last time. So things are looking bright, better, and I am very hopeful for future of India. And we all know that sports is a big industry. We have not maybe officially calculated how much it can form a part of India's GDP, or what is possibly the present size of sports industry in our GDP. But I can very well understand, if we really take it forward, sports as a true industry, then it is a big part of India's GDP, as it is a big part of any country. The sports industry can generate unimaginable revenues, create employment, and give future direction to our youth. It's like inspiration for everybody, that through sports you're engaging youth and enriching our nation. So definitely, from that perspective, CII can play a very big role to make India a very vibrant sports industry of our country, and also to ensure that the share of sports industry in our GDP, say maybe if we say next 1 decade, then we can definitely achieve it. So on that direction, the Indian industries can set a target that what should be a genuine share of Indian GDP for Indian sports. I think with regards to employment also, we can definitely count that large numbers of youth are employed in sports sector. So these are something which, if we do some defined calculation, then we will get certain good ideas, good figures will come out. I'm very, very sure about that. And about the challenges which we had in last now close to 1 year, I can share my experiences. When the lockdown started, I was a worried man. I was thinking, what will happen to our sports? Tokyo Olympics was postponed. No sporting activities were happening. And we don't know what to do. And a ministry like my ministry, who is totally dependent on the events, it was a big challenge when lockdown started. What will happen to our sports stars, our players, our venues, the infrastructure? What will happen to the youth? So I'm very happy to share that at the very, very initial stage of lockdown, we could come out with certain good ideas. So we converted this crisis into our opportunity. So we ensured that our athletes and our sports person start using this time for gaining knowledge, to understand sports better in a more formal manner. So the online classes, the online coaching, the e-Pathshala, which we have termed, e-Pathshala is a word which Honorable Prime Minister also used. So through e-Pathshala, we could reach not only to the elite athletes, but to the junior athletes also, because all the hostels were closed. So the PET, the physical education teachers, they got hugely benefited due to this e-Pathshala. And the technical team, they were constantly in touch with their athletes so that they can constantly monitor their fitness level. I have also gained certain level of understanding about the sports because I attended some of the classes. I was part of some of the online programs. So whether it's archery or table tennis or athletics, boxing, or any indigenous sports of India, I have gained certain idea about how we should approach in the future. So certain experiences which were very critical in terms of our understanding deeply about the challenges which we are facing. So this lockdown is a challenge, but we did not allow it to be a waste year. So I can very confidently say that in last 1 year, we did not waste the year which has gone due to COVID. So we have really benefited, and now we are ready for future challenges. I'm happy that tournaments are happening, successfully happening, and Indian players are going abroad. Some of the tournaments are happening now. This World Cup shooting championship will happen in Delhi, and then we are going to have World Badminton Series in Delhi, and then we are going to have many more events. I have already asked the federations to give proposals for hosting international events in India. And on that regard, I want to make one clarification or information to our industries that CSR sponsorship for events, it's permissible. CSR for the athletes development and for the infrastructure, it's already there. But for the information, CSR to organize international events, it's very important. So I have already written to, and I have discussion with the finance minister that events can come under CSR, which is very, very important. And definitely industries would like to be associated with big events, big international events in India. So that is an important step which I have already taken. And for the National Sports Development Fund, yesterday only I had a review meeting with my officials and the National Council, where we look forward for contributions from the PSUs, from the private corporate bodies, from different sources. And when you put that money for the tops athletes and for the development of infrastructure, equal amount of money comes from the finance ministry. So that is a very, very, a ready-made kind of a policy which we have, that any amount you contribute, you immediately get 50% matching share from the government. So Finance Ministry are already, they're looking forward for more contribution support from the industries. So through CII, we can ask all the corporate bodies, besides all the corporate bodies doing for sports development in their respective company, which are very, very appreciable. But as a nation, we have to also require certain central pool where we can devote resources for our top athletes as well as for the development of the grassroots sports. So I would like to also inform that we have ventured into various sectors now. Earlier, we didn't have platform for our young players. So the Khelo India Youth Games has become a biggest platform for our sports persons because it is the biggest sporting event in the country now. And our national games are not happening regularly because of certain reasons. But Khelo India Youth Games, since it is a government program, it is readily funded by my ministry, and also funds are being matched by the host state. So this has become a very big platform for our young generation, young players, and everybody's excited. And I'm happy to tell that every state is jostling to host Khelo India Youth Games. Every state is applying. All the honorable chief ministers are calling me up to give them the host right to host next Khelo India Youth Games. So next state is Haryana, and thereafter another state which I am likely to declare within a month's time. And the next Khelo India University Games, I just declared with Karnataka Chief Minister Yedurappaji at Bangalore. So things are happening. Then on the other side, we have started Khelo India University Games and Khelo India Winter Games. So last week, we had an amazing Khelo India Winter Games in Gulmarg in Kashmir. So Jammu Kashmir naturally has been the leading state for Winter Games, but we have to take it to a professional level. So my intention is to have international level competition in winter sports. So Honorable Prime Minister, when he addressed during the inauguration of the Khelo India Winter Games, he had mentioned about hosting international events. So we are going to have a national level Winter Sports Academy in Gulmarg. So the Lieutenant Governor of Jammu and Kashmir has already identified the location. The J&K administration is working closely with my ministry, and very soon we will kickstart the academy. I'm going to Kashmir again in the month of April to launch winter sports and some other sports discipline which was awarded to Jammu and Kashmir under Khelo India State Center of Excellence. So every state we have already declared one Khelo India State Center of Excellence. Now, for your information, we have 23 National Center of Excellence right now, where our top athletes are undergoing training. Besides that, there are private academies. I have declared that 500 private academies will be accredited under the Khelo India, and we will start funding them. We already have some of the top academies like PT Usha Athletics Academy, Gopichand Badminton Academy, and we have Prakash Padukan Dravid Academy in Bangalore. We have Marycom Boxing Academy. Then we have many other private academy which we are funding. We are going to fund more. We want to engage former Olympians, former sports stars into the field of sports. In the same manner, every state will have one Khelo State Center of Excellence, which we have started funding. There are some remaining states. We will announce it one by one in a group of 8-9 states at one go. And then I have already announced that 1,000 small Khelo India centers across the country. That will take care of the young boys and girls at the village level, at the block level. They will get the initial training and initial exposure. From there, they will be picked up under various other schemes, which we have. I need not elaborate all details, but we have many schemes already in place. So those Khelo India small centers, where we will initially fund 5 to 10 lakhs for the initial development, and then of course when it comes up well, we will definitely convert into a higher level of its expertise. We will see how it comes up, but we will declare it as a something like state level excellence from the local level. So in this manner, we are starting winter sports facilities besides Jammu and Kashmir, because Kashmir side we have done it. We want to do in the Jammu side. There are beautiful snow-bound locations in Jammu side, and we have already sanctioned amount for ice hockey and skiing at Auli in Uttarakhand. In the same manner, we want to do in Himachal Pradesh. We will do in Sikkim, Arunachal. We will begin with some initial steps. We can't do large scale at one go, but that way we are both touching the regular winter sports as well as the summer sports. And we are also coming forward with the development of the indigenous sports like Kabaddi. Kabaddi is of course Asian Games sport, but future we hope someday Kabaddi will be in the Olympics. We will aggressively push for it. And my colleague, Mr. Nigel, the Minister of Sport UK, I will urge him to support Kabaddi to be part of Olympics, and we would like to push it very strongly. India must have one of its indigenous sports in the Olympics. So hopefully we will push for it. And also like Malakam, we have Kalaripattu, we have Gatka, Thangta, we have already included Yogasan as a sport. So the indigenous sports are being given due recognition by our government. Prime Minister Modi ji is very particular that along with the global sports, Olympic sports, we need to promote Indian sports. So there are various things. When I talk to you all about sports, my speech will never end. So I will not like to take long time. I have so many points to talk about, but I won't take much time because you will require deliberation from many of the well-known experts and experienced people on this sector, and you will listen to them. But what I want to emphasize is the public-private partnership. We really need world-class infrastructure in India, and I have no doubt in mind that we are lacking behind in terms of world-class infrastructure in India. That is where I would like to call upon the industry to come up under the private-public partnership to have a top-class infrastructure as well as for the sports science. That is where we are lacking behind. And also, I would like to mention, I had already mentioned this to my counterpart from UK, Mr. Nigel, that the new education policy of India has given a huge openings for the youth. Now, sports is no more extracurricular activities. Sports and fitness are part of the education curricular activities now. It will form part of our grading system. It will part of a definition in terms of a student's intelligence, students' marks in assessing the overall ability of a student. This is very important to the growth of a child. And we must thank our Honorable Prime Minister for making this amazing, appreciable, and one of the most widely consulted education policy of the world. And it's a vast policy, and every sector must take this education policy into their stride. And we must ensure that this policy must be integrated while we are implementing all our policies, all our actions with regards to our education. And finally, let us ensure that the things which I see and what I say is not my dream, but it's a dream of India. It's the aspiration of the people of India, and we have to ensure that collectively we achieve that. I would like to thank the CII for inviting me once again. When I was in the Home Ministry as a Minister of State for Home Affairs, I was a regular part of the deliberation. Of course, that time it was more related to security with the CII. I'm always delighted to be part of any deliberation, CII being one of the most credible organizations of our country. We trust CII. Whatever you do with full knowledge, intention, intensity, and you have a goal to set for our nation. We are very, very happy for whatever you are doing. In the end, I would like to add that now this dream which we have set to make India a sports superpower, it has to be a reality. It's not a dream. I will not say it as a dream now, because dreams are sometimes we keep chasing, we don't fulfill or we don't realize. But this dream has to be a reality. It's a target, and India must be a sporting superpower. We have to be. We have to be there. And for that, we have the ability. The time is with us. The leadership is very clear. The government is there all over. For whatever is required to be done, we are very much there in every step to be taken by every segment of our society. So once again, thank you very much for inviting me, and look forward for meeting in person. I always open my door for any kind of requirement to be brought to my notice, to my information. I'm always ever ready to have a deliberation, discuss, and then look for a solution. Thank you everybody for having me, and my best wishes for this beautiful and very, very engaging program and this inaugural session of the Scorecard 2021 of CIA. My best wishes to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for your voice of inspiration. Thank you, and request you to stay with us for the panel discussion. And whoever said champions are only made on field was wrong. You, sir, are a champion for the sporting cause in the country. Fit India for a new India. And thank you so much for carving the path ahead for India to become one of the biggest sporting nations in the world. And also thank you for being the strong force for India's quest to host Olympics. And we all are hoping for the same. And we are with you for making India's one of the most sporting superpower in the world. Thank you so much, sir. And we now begin our first panel discussion for the day, which will focus on what it has meant to keep sport going in the face of unique global challenges of this past year, as well as emerging opportunities for sport to grow faster, higher, and stronger in the immediate future. And joining our Honorable Sports Minister, Shri Kiran Rijijuji, in this discussion is the Minister for Sport, Tourism and Heritage, United Kingdom, Mr. Nigel Huddleston. Welcome, sir. Mr. Huddleston is currently serving as the Minister for Sport, Tourism and Heritage, United Kingdom, an Oxford University graduate and MBA from Anderson School, UCLA, USA. Mr. Huddleston has held various roles. He has worked for Deloitte, working in the technology, media, and telecommunications and travel, hospitality and leisure practices for several years before joining Google as industry head of travel in January 2011. He was selected as the Conservative Party parliamentary candidate for Mid Worcestershire in November 2013 and has been an MP continuously since 7th May 2015. Welcome, Mr. Nigel Huddleston. And to moderate the session, may I invite the chairman of CII National Committee on Sports, Mr. Anupam Goswami. He currently serves as the CEO, Mashal Sports and League Commissioner of Pro Kabaddi since 2015. In the earlier part of his career as a senior sports executive, he also led the broadcasting team of Star Sports for hockey and kabaddi. Prior to his career in sports, he was a long-serving media individual. He served in editorial and corporate leadership roles in news magazines and daily newspapers in India and overseas. And before I hand it over to Anupam sir, a gentle reminder to all our viewers to send their questions in the chat box, mentioning whom they want to address it to, then your name, then the organization that you belong to, and then the question. It'll be easier for us to address it to the respective individual. Also, Mr. Goswami, I request you to please click on the chat box to view the questions. And with that, I hand it over to you, sir.
Sachin, thank you so much. Again, is the audio working from my end?
Yes, sir. It is.
Sir, that is because they have left me alone in this room and I have to figure out things for myself. This is a conversation. Has the Honorable Minister from UK joined?
Yes, sir.
Minister Huddleston, thank you so much for being with us. They have called me a moderator, but this one is a unique. So it's a unique conversation between peers. It's a conversation between you and Kiranji. I propose to moderate it to as less as possible. And in reverse, in the absolute contrast to the sessions with moderators, I will say something only with your permission. I'm going to raise my hand and then just draw your attention to a particular issue or elaboration of the point that I made. But the way we will begin the session is I will call upon the Honorable Nigel Huddleston to make some opening comments, and then Kiranji, you can pick up the conversation from there. That's the way we do it. Minister Huddleston, this is your floor.
Well, thank you very much, Anupam, and thank you so much to the Confederation of Indian Industry as well for inviting me today to this session. And it was a pleasure to actually join a few minutes early so I could hear the minister's speech, because we absolutely speak the same language and share the same passion for sport. And we had a conversation the other day, and I think we could have talked for hours and hours and hours. So I'm afraid, Anupam, you may need to intervene, because otherwise we'll just go on and on and on. So, but it's fantastic to hear the passion, and I think all of you are very fortunate to have a minister for sport in India who is so passionate and so committed to the sector. And as I said, that's something I share. And absolutely, I could have picked up phrases from that passage and spoken the same things in the House of Commons here in England, because the importance of sport for our physical health, and of course we've particularly seen that as we've all faced the challenges of coronavirus, but also how important it is for our mental health. And then also the importance of sport for the economy. There are lots of jobs in sport. There's lots of economic activity in sport. There's lots of taxes to be raised from sport. And we should never forget that as well. It's not just a bit of fun. It's not just good for our physical health. It's a vital contributor to our economy and a fast growing part of our economy as well. And I think it's important we recognise that. And similarly, the Minister mentioned the importance of the public-private partnership. Again, we absolutely agree on that in the UK. And of course, we've got some major sporting events, some globally important sporting events. The Premier League, for example, is a global brand. And of course, cricket around the world. We'll see how today goes out. And I won't mention cricket too much today. But of course, you know, we also share that passion for not only participating in sport, but watching sport. We've got major sports fans in England and the UK and across India. And I share the Minister's ambition as well to work closely together. India has already proven that it can hold major sporting events. You have world-class stadiums that compete on the world stage. We love hosting major international events as well, but it's quite right that those events should be shared across the world. And indeed, I'm very envious of the global ambition that India has for sport, because of course, when India puts its mind to something, it delivers. And I think that passion for sports and becoming, you know, even more globally competitive when it comes to holding sporting events, but also from athletes, you know, that's going to be competition for us in the future as well. You've already got major world-class athletes, of course. Some of them we're very envious about already. But as I said, I can see great things happening to the Indian sports sector over the next few years. The Minister also commented on the challenges as sports ministers. I've enjoyed meeting with many of the sports sectors over the last few years as well. The challenge of meeting them all, of course, is that they all expect us as sports ministers to be fantastic players at every single event. So we go and meet tennis and they say, will you join in with the tennis? Will you join in with the cricket? Will you join in with the athletics? And there you are, put on the spot with the cameras around there, with global athletes there trying to compete with you. It's quite a challenge. And I think everybody keeps quite a close eye on our weights as sports ministers as well, and expecting us to be incredibly athletic, which is quite a challenge, particularly in these times. So I share many of the passions and the opportunities with the minister, but I also share some of the challenges that come with the role. But with that, I'll finish my comments other than to say I am very hopeful of an ongoing, growing relationship between India and the UK in sports, as in so many other areas. I think it's fair to say that we've hit it off, Minister, and we'll definitely look forward to working together. And I very much look forward to this conversation today. And I love the theme as well, a brave new world for sport, because it absolutely is. Very different world. We've all struggled with coronavirus, but sport has been something that's lifted our spirits during, the depths of a global crisis. And will help get us out of this as well. And it is indeed a brave new world for us all. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Huddleston. Kiranji, it has to be just you and Minister Huddleston.
No, thank you very much. It's wonderful to listen to Minister Nigel once again. As he stated earlier, the first introductory conversation we had the other day was extremely useful and very engaging. I'm very happy to have such a counterpart, interesting sports minister, who I look forward to in future for working together. There are certain things we can do as both UK and India are very important nations, and we both have a similar foundation, and we are part of the Commonwealth nations. So the field of experience is almost similar. What I'm impressed with UK is that once UK was a sporting powerhouse, then it went down, and there was certain recalibration in the way the UK dealt with the sports, and they come out with the UK sports national sports lottery, that the total funding system. The whole approach was totally different, and UK now are back to top 3. In last 4 Olympics, they are always there in the top 3. So this is no mean a small achievement for a size of UK as a nation. It's a hugely successful effort. So that is where I look forward to learn certain things from UK. At the same time, we also have certain things in India. That's our strength, and that is the experience where we can share with our counterparts. So as we agreed last time that India and UK can forward for some kind of formal arrangement, coming into some MOU in certain field, and then work on that. And also as a youth affairs minister, I look forward to have some kind of youth exchange programs with UK and India, so that we can have some school to school, university to university, or a leadership exchange program. So sports and youth affairs are so integral part of the whole approach in the present time. So if we come into certain arrangement, some kind of MOU, I will talk to my counterpart, my colleague here in the Ministry of External Affairs, to work with the UK embassy here in India, the UK Commission here, and then of course with the minister we can get in touch, and we look forward for that. Some of the sporting success, these are something which needs to be told. Success is something which inspires people, which inspires the young generation. We also have certain success stories in the same manner which the UK has many success stories which are very inspiring. So whether it's a fitness program or whether it's a sports program, we are almost approaching in a similar fashion. But as I said earlier, India is yet to be there at the top level in terms of success. But the grassroots development, I think we are at a right place right now. And the sports for excellence is something which we are pushing very hard now. So that is where I look forward for more understanding cooperation with UK. Now today, because we have our minister from UK, so I would like to devote much of my time on how we look forward for our cooperation with UK. And last time we said that we will also exchange formal invitation for visit in near future. So today, Anupam, I would like to request you to have a discussion. I don't know how long you want to drive this discussion up to, but in certain area of focus, you can exchange words from both of us, and then we can definitely provide inputs of our thoughts about the thing which you want us to say about.
Minister Huddleston, Kiranji has given one set of cue already, which is about raising investments and big investments for sport. Would you like to respond to the Indian minister's observation?
Absolutely, and the minister is correct that we're a sports-mad country. We love our sports, but if you look, for example, at our performance in the Olympics, which is often the measure, globally that people assess individual nations' sporting performance, We were down to just one gold medal in 1996 in the Atlanta Olympics, whereas we've had a strong history of doing well in the Olympics and other major sporting events before that. It's not just about athletics and the Olympic sports, but I say that is one indicator. And the minister is correct to say that we were definitely, losing our global weight. So there was a concerted effort from government to invest in sport at both grassroots level, and then also, of course, when you get young people interested in grassroots, that's how you evolve them then into the elite athletes. And actually, the funding body, or one of the major funding bodies, was when in 1993 we introduced the National Lottery in the UK. The funding then, some of the National Lottery money was deliberately intended to go to good causes. That includes art, some culture and community investments, but sport was front and center of that as well. And the money that we have raised since 1993 from the National Lottery, and we're talking about billions and billions of pounds, has been invested through our arm's length bodies, Sport England for the grassroots level, and then UK Sport for the elite level. Now, that money is then topped up by taxpayers' money, so it's a combination between National Lottery money and taxpayers' money. But there is absolutely no doubt that that was a sea change in our ability to then compete on the world stage, because we do need investment in sport, and some of that comes from the private sector, but some of it has to be government and other forms of investment like the National Lottery. So I would say that if it wasn't for the National Lottery money, we probably wouldn't be in the position of strength that we are at the moment. But of course, it's relative strength, and there are many, many other countries around the world also improving their global competitive offerings, including, of course, India. So we never take anything for granted, but there is no doubt that there is a correlation between investment and results. And we keep very close attention, particularly through UK sport. And every cycle, every Olympic cycle, for example, we look where we've had success and where we haven't, where we think we've got potential, where we may be losing ground, and we change the investment in quite a disciplined and rigorous way accordingly. Similarly in schools, and the minister spoke about the importance of school sport in his speech as well, we've invested more heavily in school sports as well, from both the physical activity angle and making sure that our children are active and healthy mentally and physically. But also, that investment in schools has also led to and inspired, in particular, girls to become more active and become bigger sports fans. And many of them have gone on then to be world athletes as well. So I would say it's absolutely key that investment is important. And the private sector play a key role as well. It's great that we've got major institutions like, I say, the Premier League. There's a lot of money in the Premier League. TV rights globally are very important. They are also major investors, not only in their own game at elite level, but they also then put some of their money through the Football Foundation and other bodies into grassroots sport. So it's very good that the elite level is also voluntarily, with the support of government, investing very heavily in the lower levels as well. So that flow of money, let's not pretend it's not important. It absolutely is, and government does have a role there.
Minister Hansen, thank you. One common theme both you and Kiranji have referred to is, of course, the challenges that you experience in face of COVID. What will be the continuing challenges, and what are the areas you want to continue growing sport in the immediate next few months? Kiranji?
For me?
That's between you.
Yeah, thank you. See, the challenges will always be there when it comes to resources. And especially for a country like India, where the requirement is so huge, we will always have the challenges of resources. That is where I want the state government to come in a big way along with the industries. Because sports is something where we have to come every level. Because for development of sports in the grassroots level, until or unless we involve the state governments, or until the state government prioritize sports as a priority sector, we will never be able to achieve whatever we have set for. So right now, I'm happy that each state and union territories in India are devoting good amount of resources and focus on the sports. But I see beyond. And when the industries are looking forward for opportunities, unless the government comes out with the equal number of that support, the industries alone won't be able to do it. So the government support, government policy to be equally supporting to the efforts of the industries. And the private investment in sports has to be very critical thing, because it has to be lucrative. Unless we make sports as lucrative industry, the private sector will always have its own limitation to come forward. So that is where we need to create a perfect platform with very congenial policy and atmosphere for the industries to invest. And that is where I also look for the private public partnership for developing and creating infrastructure. Now, recently, the finance ministry during the budget already mentioned about monetization of our sporting assets, or we have large numbers of stadiums and lands all around the country. By far, majority of our assets are unutilized or half. And those facilities and assets need to be really developed. And that is where, when finance minister announced this thing in budget, I think it was put down very well. Now I hope the industry will take a lead role out of that announcement. And I, as a sports minister, will assure that from my ministry, we will do whatever is necessary from our side, and also to go ahead and ask the state governments to take up a proactive step in terms of getting the industries and in terms of developing those lying assets. These are just lying huge assets. We are not doing anything. That is one sector I can see the immediate opportunities and avenues before us.
Sirs, if I may take the cue from what Kiranji just said and ask a very simple question to both of you. How can industry and representative bodies in the two countries cooperate to partner the vision both of you are espousing today? Mr. Harrelson?
Perhaps I can. I will start this. I think there's many ways, and I agree. And I've also instructed my officials to start looking at ways that we can enhance already a good relationship, but enhance the sporting relationships between our two nations. There's absolutely things that we can learn from each other, and I say there's exciting opportunities. For example, you've mentioned already, and I know, Chairman, you've got a strong interest in this. These exciting new sports, certainly from the UK angle, like kabaddi and so on. These are amazing sports that are not particularly well known across the whole of the UK. So I think there's opportunities to help grow some new sports and grow interest in those sports as well. I watched YouTube last night to watch some of the sports, and I have to say it was I started off thinking, oh, this is quite a nice civil game, and then I saw the more active side of it, and it was exciting to watch and exciting to see. So I think there's roles there to so that we enhance new sports. As the minister said, there's always learning opportunities in everything from sports governance, the way that we control sports in terms of drug taking and so on. There's always learnings that we can learn and share across that. And then actually in terms of sports rights, TV rights, international competitions, how we can work and help and support each other with perhaps hosting international events. There's many ways I think that we could work together. So we will, I'm sure, work on this memorandum of understanding or some equivalent. And I think there'll be all sorts of ways that both governments and the private sector can work together. And quite frankly, I should think that both in the UK and in India will invite industry to come up with their ideas of how we could also work together. I think this is not all government. It needs to be this public-private partnership that the minister mentioned earlier on.
Thank you, Minister Harrelson. CII would be very interested in taking up any opportunity which is created by you, as well as created by Kiranji. Kiranji, would you like to respond to the minister?
I think with regards to the cooperation, which we have already stated and shown our intention very clear, CII with its peer body in UK can think about organizing this kind of event where we also involve both the Finance Minister of India and the Finance Secretary of UK. So along with both the sports ministers, we can engage the industry ministers and the finance ministers of both the countries, and then make some concerted effort so that we collaborate, between two countries and make it, we can amplify the effort. If India and UK can come together on any front, definitely the amplification will be there to everybody to see it. So we can propose. I'm forever ready for that, because as I said, commercial success is key to anything. Without the backing of the industry, without the backing of the industries, the organizations like CII, it will always be challenging for the government to take it to a new scale. So I'm very, very positive in this matter, to look forward and to see that we also have a UK-India joint that this kind of arrangement where we can deliver and involve the other departments and ministries also.
Thank you, sir. We have, the session was supposed to go on till 2:20. We'll take a few minutes more. And I'll ask both ministers, how do you see the immediate next few months in terms of upcoming events? There is the Tokyo Olympics, of course, and then for England, there will be the Commonwealth Games in 2022, which is a unique demonstration of co-hosting of events. How do you see that, Minister Harrison, evolving into new initiatives?
Absolutely. I think we've all had a very challenging time with coronavirus over the last year. And it is amazing to think it is, over a year now since this virus, this pandemic started, and none of us knew how long it was going to last and quite how severe it was going to be. It's had a huge impact on sport and physical activity. Around the world, we've had to curtail events at both and participation in sport and physical activity at grassroots and individual level, as well as at major events levels. So it's really important that we've got some major events to look forward to. And the Commonwealth Games in Birmingham in 2022 is something that we're really looking forward to. And I'm honoured to be the minister overseeing the Commonwealth Games. And, we're literally building new infrastructure, which will have a long-lasting impact, a legacy impact then, world-class new swimming and upgrading the Alexander Stadium. So it's a great opportunity that will have a legacy. During coronavirus itself, I think we've all struggled, but we did keep physical activity. It was always the case, even in the deepest, darkest days of peak lockdown in the UK, we still allowed people to go out and exercise. That was one of the things we said you can still do. And actually, we've seen an uptake in certain activities like cycling and running, more people participating in them than ever. But many other sports have suffered. We've not been able to have fans back in stadia for a while. We've now got a roadmap. The Prime Minister announced a roadmap for recovery and how we can get fans back, which of course will help with the flow of money into sport. And in the meanwhile, we've had to have a support package, the Sports Winter Survival Package. And just a couple of days ago in the UK, we had a budget where we announced further investment and support, literally to help some of these sports and activities survive. And that's going to help financially the sports and the individual clubs at grassroots level even that would struggle. So we've had to have financial investment, but we do have a more positive outlook. We've got a good vaccination program rolling out and things that can look very positive. And as you mentioned, actually, the games also in India, the archery and shooting event is going to be absolutely fantastic as well. And so the Commonwealth events in 2022 are something that will unite our nations, that we can look very much forward to. And of course, I mentioned as well, I'm the tourism minister. And therefore, there's a lot of sport tourism both ways. Lots of tourists go to India to watch sporting events. Lots of Indians come to the UK to watch sporting events. That's really important as well. So when we get international travel going again, that's going to be vital as well from a tourism and sports perspective. So I am optimistic about the future after what has been a very, very difficult time. But you're absolutely right. The Commonwealth Games in particular next year is going to be something that will unite our nations, because we're both hosting major events that I'm very much looking forward to.
It would also be the 75th year of Indian independence. And I think we would all be looking to great achievements on behalf of Indian sport. We have something in that line in later sessions of Scorecard. But if I may ask you to respond to a cue which Kiranji game. How do you keep sports infra in use even after the big event is over, so they don't become white elephants? And what would be your solutions for that for the new age infrastructure we create?
That's for Mr. Nigel.
It's for Mr. Nigel, but I don't know whether he's hearing Mr. Minister Hardison.
Yes, I can. I can kick off. You're right, actually. There's often criticism about significant investment in major international events. We're spending, for example, over £750 million to support and host the Commonwealth Games. And this criticism of them being white elephants is something you do hear. But what we have seen over the last few years is that if you plan these things carefully, you can get a major economic uplift and benefit from hosting major world events, or indeed investing in stadia, because they can generate so much incremental activity. There's not only value in the construction of these new locations, the new stadia and so on, which have a lasting benefit to the local communities, but also during the time the events are hosted, there is a major impact on tourism, on hospitality and leisure, on hotels, pubs, bars and restaurants get a major impact, TV rights generation, and of course then you end up showcasing a location to the world that perhaps hasn't previously had its attention. And certainly we're planning on doing that with Birmingham and the West Midlands, which is great from the long-term investment and tourism opportunity. So whilst the money invested in some of these events looks pretty big, and they are big amounts of money, if done right, if planned properly, there is a very strong return on investment from these major events. And we've seen that in Glasgow Commonwealth Games, with the Gold Coast Commonwealth Games, and in most Olympics as well. And similarly, investment in stadia is often something that, we're talking about hefty chunks of money, that these stadia can then not only just be used for sport events, but music events, hosting weddings and other events and so on. So as long as you're clever about the usage of some of these facilities, you find that actually they can be major economic contributors to the local economy from sports, but also beyond that. So I understand the kind of white elephant accusation, but I think when planned correctly, we've got a very strong history to show that they can actually really make a big economic difference.
Kiranji, I've got two questions from delegates. Before I move to them, would you like to take the discussion forward with Minister Hardison now?
No, this particular matter which Mr. Nigel Huddleston was saying, of course, Olympics is almost ultimate target for every nation to be there. But besides that, there are so many important events, like Commonwealth Games is very important for India. And I've already mentioned with the minister the other day that India is a leading nation in terms of taking forward Commonwealth agendas, be it sports, governance, legislators. When I was not minister in 2004-05, when I was member of parliament, I had UK, I had a very extensive deliberation there, met many of the members of parliament. I was very young that time. So a wonderful experience. I had the opportunity of having dinner at the Tower Bridge in London, that is Signature Bridge. So Sir Patrick Cormack, the senior most member of parliament that time, so Sir Patrick Cormack had hosted me in his home constituency in South Staffordshire and all. So Commonwealth nation, India, UK, and all Commonwealth nations must come together for various purposes. So taking this advantage, I would like to urge my colleague, that my friend, when we talk about Kabaddi to be put into the Olympics, I urge entire Commonwealth nations to come together and say that yes, Kabaddi has to be there in Olympics. And that is where, we see our unity. And if UK has something to say in the Commonwealth Forum, we will always listen. So this Commonwealth Games is also important for us. We are ready for 2022 but I would like to thank for that purpose that the archery and shooting which were dropped from the 2022 Commonwealth. So when I wrote letter to the previous predecessor of Mr. Nigel, he has been kind enough to respond to my letter and assured. And then subsequently, the Commonwealth Games Federation president and the secretary came to India, met me, and we agreed that, yes, there were certain difficulties, but archery and shooting will be part of the Commonwealth Games 2022, but it will be hosted in India in Chandigarh. So for that event, I would like to extend invitation. Verbally, I'm sitting down, but I will be officially extending my invitation to my counterpart, Mr. Nigel, to visit India during that Commonwealth Championship. And also, for the future challenges, see, for Tokyo Olympics, we all know there are certain things which are uncertain, like crowd participation, overseas spectators, the protocols to be set inside. There are various challenges, and these are something which are unforeseen. We cannot really make definite comment about that because we also don't know what kind of shape it will have in that point of time or 2-3 months from now. So, but we are ready to deal with any challenges. From Indian context, we have already assured our sports federations, our athletes, that Government of India will ensure entire arrangement, whatever is required to make our Olympic preparation and participation both very smoothly. It should be done. We will do it. But after all, it's a global effort, but I don't know about what my colleague in UK will do it, but we are ready for the Tokyo 2021, and we are hopeful that situation doesn't turn into more volatile or more challenging in the next 3-4 months' time. We are hopeful for Olympics. It is already postponed by 1 year. I hope it doesn't get postponed for another year, or it should not have any kind of further uncertainties.
Thank you, Kiranji. There are two questions of a similar name or similar kind for each of you. And so one question for each of you. I'll just read out the questions first and then request you to proceed by answering it in conversation. Kiranji, the question for you is, after cricket, where do you see India's next biggest opportunity in sports, especially in the wake of the sports boom which has happened in the past decade or so? That's a question for you. A similar question is there for Minister Harris. UK has a vibrant multi-sport culture, and the delegate mentions football, rugby, and cricket, but all with big following and programming. What, according to you, would help the emergence and popularity of other sports, including sports which are played by some of the overseas communities in India? So, Kiranji?
I missed my question actually. There was some problem in the screen.
So, after cricket, where do you see India's next biggest opportunity in sports, especially in the wake of the growth of sports which has been seen since the last decade or so?
Oh yes, this is very interesting question. We all know the success of sports depends on two things: the investment and the revenue generation from the sports. Because without sustainable revenue model, any sports cannot succeed. It cannot sustain. That is why I am telling the sports federations in India to look out for a better model for a successful league. Don't allow successful leagues. The sports cannot sustain. For example, Pro Kabaddi League, which Mr. Anupam is driving it, it is successful because it has a very and we've got very good viewership. And the viewership is there because you have a very good model. So other than cricket, cricket is already there. But cricket is not an Olympic sport. We have, bilateral series, we have test matches, we have one day, we have 2020. These are. But to make India a sporting superpower, we have to go beyond cricket. We have to go for the Olympic sports. That is where I see some of the sports like Kabaddi, though it is not an Olympic sport, but it's already successful here because of the Pro Kabaddi League. So other than that, we have great future in football, in hockey, in badminton, table tennis, wrestling, boxing. These are some of the sporting disciplines where India is doing good. Like hockey, both men and women qualified for Olympics. If we win medals, it will transform Indian hockey. If we win medal in boxing, shooting, India is now almost ranked #1 in the world shooting because we have been winning medals, except the last Rio Olympics, but 2004, 2008, 2012 London Olympics. So Athens, Beijing, London, we constantly were there in the medal bracket. So that is how we can transform this sport. So besides cricket, the rest of the field, I find it's widely open. The opportunity is limitless. So with successful league, my concentration now is to have successful league other than cricket. Pro Kabaddi is already there, but I want to see the Pro Kabaddi type in other sporting disciplines. And for that, we will discuss with the Sports Federation, and we will ensure that we have a favorable policy by government and by the federations to ensure that the leagues are operated, run in a very conducive, profitable manner, so that revenue model, people's interest towards sports, everything is as per the need of the time. Anupam, your voice is not coming.
Sir, can you hear me now? Minister Hartleson, it's obvious that sports leagues can be a very potent and a big area of cooperation and learning between the two countries. A similar question to you, sir. What role do you see for new sports, particularly sports which can be integral to community development and integration in a multiracial country like yours?
Yeah. And actually, the questions there are all very important in terms of getting a greater variety of sport and how we achieve that. I think, first of all, there is the straightforward visibility, what's on television, what's on YouTube, what's being shared, what gets people excited. The next step then is what's taught at schools, which is really important as well. And actually, certainly we try and encourage a wide variety of sports at schools, because that's often where people get excited about sports. You don't have to be great at them, but you can still enjoy them at school. And in the UK, 40% of all sports facilities are behind school gates. So what goes on in schools is so important to our sporting ecosystem. And then, of course, the next step is then the broader facilities and provision of facilities. And you're absolutely right that we've got to make sure that it's not dominated by just one sport. In the UK, there's lots of football grounds, for example, and we'll be continuing to invest in football grounds. We made an announcement in the budget about this. But what was important about that announcement is that we want the grounds also to be used for other sports. So 40% of the investment needs to go on multi-sport. So it is really important that you make a concerted effort at schools, in terms of what's on television, and then in terms of providing the facilities to make sure that there is that variety. And some of that can vary from one part of the country to another. So I think we will see, and we are already seeing, new sports develop with new facilities, but it does require that investment. And the minister mentioned earlier on as well about what's in showcase then on the major international events. Things like the Olympics, probably for good reason. It's not decided on by ministers as such. It's by the International Olympic Committee, but in consultation with government and others. And I know that over time they are constantly looking to evolve sports. And I suspect that the sports at the Olympics in 10, 20 years' time will be very different from the sports now, because it is natural that they change over time according to global popularity. So, and they do have an impact. I mean, I remember very vividly in the 2012 London Olympics, seeing handball for the first time. Played in the UK, and it got people excited, and all of a sudden there was a take up in handball. So it does have an impact in terms of what happens at those major events, because people see new and exciting sports and get interested in them.
Mr. Hartleson, Kiranji, thank you so much for your spontaneity and your free-flowing responses. And I'll always be personally grateful to you for one reason. I've never been a TV host show before. I think I'll look to that career. And I will now ask Sachin to request the vote of thanks. Sachin?
Anupam sir, thank you so much. And after that interesting session, for the concluding remarks, would like to welcome Mr. Jalaj Dani, whose passion for sports is the driving force behind his close involvement with Sportscom, a not-for-profit apex industry body to promote the business of manufacturers of sports goods and service providers to the sports sector and make them globally competitive. He is also the president of Sports Physical Education, Fitness and Leisure Skills Council. He serves as an independent director on board of HDFC Limited and Havos India Limited. Please join me in welcoming President Sportscom Industry Confederation and co-promoter Asian Paints, Mr. Jalaj Dani. So over to you, sir.
Good morning, Honorable Minister. I could see it's 7:30 in the morning when you joined us. So it was very nice to have you here. It's always good to have Honorable Kiran Rijiju. I feel odd extending him a warm welcome or a vote of thanks because he takes so much ownership in every event. I feel like he is the host and he makes all of us so comfortable, and he is a champion for all of us all over the world. So I want to thank both of you, and of course Anupam, who is the driving force behind Scorecard, along with Kunal, who is helping us out as far as knowledge partnership is concerned. So friends, the last half an hour or so, would we call this a 5-day test match, or would we call it a 2-day test match that was as exciting as a 5-day test match with a good result? I think that's how I feel at the end of it. We were really lucky to have two leading minds exchanging ideas and giving us so much food for thought. Can I just request all the participants to unmute themselves at this stage and give a very, very warm round of applause to the two honorable ministers for all the insights they have shared. And I will also request all the participants now to mute themselves. So, as far as I'm concerned, I heard three clarion calls to action from our Honorable Minister Rijujuji. First was public-private partnership, especially in infrastructure. And sir, as assured by Anupam and CII, that we are more than happy to play any role as far as public-private partnerships on the lines of what Honorable UK Minister also referred has successfully happened in his part of the world. Second, I think is a great opportunity. It was a suggestion again from Honorable Rijuji about a joint exchange program between experts of the two countries, not only the sports and youth ministries, but also Ministry of External Affairs. And Honorable Minister from UK will be happy to know that there is a foundation called ELMS, which is Excellence in Leadership Management and Sports, with Abhinav Bindra and Pulila Gopichand, which is doing capacity building, as Rijuju sir knows, with the Sports Authority of India, CII, and that is being led by none other, sir, than a university from your part of the world, Loughborough University. That's where many Olympians are created and they train all the time. So we as Sportscom or as CII Sports look forward to many more such partnership, and we'll be very happy to even help fund some of these initiatives, because exchange of good people will need motivation, and we are more than happy to play that role, sir, as far as industry body is concerned. And also, Rijuju sir, you spoke about skill building. You talked about self-defense for girls. It's becoming extremely important. International Women's Day is coming up, and I think this is something we should teach girls in schools. And you are very, very passionate about that cause, I know. And you, sir, also spoke about physical education and going digital with that as far as schooling is concerned. So making India play is what we say we want to do. And we're more than happy, sir, to partner with you and draw inspiration from UK. So once again, we are really delighted for having both of you for the opening session. Thank you for the motivation. And for the rest of the participants, stay tuned for more. We will be right back. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Dani. Thank you so much. And as you rightly said, A 5-day test match packed in a power-packed, 2-day test series. And both the ministers, thank you so much for breaking barriers and hitting boundaries. It's encouraging to see both the countries making a strong effort for sports to bounce back even stronger on the global platform. Once again, thank you to Honorable Minister of Sports, Shri Kiran Rijiju, UK Sports Minister, Mr. Nigel Huddleston, for joining us. And thank you, Mr. Anupam Goswami, for moderating the session. And thank you, Mr. Dani, for the concluding remarks. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next panel discussion will begin now, and all the delegates need to go to the CII Hive lobby. That's on the main page, and on the conference section at the top panel of the screen, and kindly join section. That's Sports Back on Track. I'll repeat this. All the delegates need to go to the CII Hive lobby. That's on the main page. Click on the conference section at the top panel on your screen, and kindly join session 2. That's Getting Sports Back on Track. See you on the other side. Discuss.